Yoga Vasishtha Sara, Chapter 1, Part 2. So today we will continue with some of the verses from this work, and we start with verse number 6. Not a day should be spent in a place which does not possess the tree of a wise knower of truth, with its good fruit and cool shade. This may sound quite poetic, and superficially one may think what they're meaning here is that one should not spend one day without the presence of a sage or a guru or a roshi. But not everybody can spend his whole life in an ashram or a monastery. Of course, it's always nice when you can visit one of these places, and that can be in any country. But some of us, we have a life, we have a job, we have families, we have hobbies, we are busy with certain things, and most of us cannot afford spending all days of the year in the presence of the tree of a wise knower of truth with its good fruit and cool shade. The verse also doesn't say the presence of a sage. He says the presence of a tree of a wise knower of truth. So it's a little different. And my interpretation anyway would rather relate to remembers one's own light during daily activities. And that can happen no matter where one is. So rather than moving to the top of a mountain, or in a cave, or in a monastery, or in an ashram, I suggest we try to find this tree with its cool shade right where we are in daily life, while we walk in the street, while we eat something, while we listen to someone, while we're waiting in line at the post office, while we have to wait in front of a red light in traffic, while we are driving and can see the street pass by, while we are practicing some sport, swimming, tennis, whatever it is. All these can be moments that correspond to feeling the cool shade of the tree of a wise man, because that wise man is your own light. And as I already said, an external guru or roshi or other master, it can be very useful from time to time. But the turning of mirrors to what we truly are, that can be practiced anywhere, at any time. And when you are able to practice this during your daily life, it would be much more effective than if you only practice it on the top of the mountain or in a monastery. Take a few moments then to think of such occasions during the day, in your own day, where you could indeed apply this teaching. As I said, examples are walking, eating, listening to someone, waiting in line, waiting for a red light, whatever moments that are. It doesn't matter, but take a few moments imagining that you could use those moments to remember your true light. Verse number 7. The sages are to be approached, even if they do not teach. Even their talks in a light vein contain wisdom. This reminds me of a small Zen story. It's about this lady who enters a monastery and spends already a few days there, participating in all the activities, the cooking, the cleaning, the ceremonies, etc. And after a few days, she goes and sees the master and said, "Oh, master, I have entered this monastery a few days ago. When will my apprenticeship begin?" she asks. So the master looks at her and said, "It has begun already." So she responds back to the master, "But I haven't learned anything yet." And then the master responds, "Well, you haven't found out what I'm teaching yet." That's the end of the story. So think a little bit yourself how it is that a wise person, if you do go to a monastery one day, or if you do attend some retreat, Advaita or any other tradition, do think what kind of circumstances might happen where the teaching is not related to words, to explanations. For example, you can see the master of that place eating. During the act of eating, maybe a peach or something, if that action takes place in oneness, one can notice a subtle difference. Or when the master is, for example, talking to someone, you may notice very subtly that this talking does not take place between one ego and another ego, and that the master considers the other as part of his own shining light, which is the same light as the one of the other person. So it's light with light, no division, no boundary. Or just seeing him walking in the corridor, there is a subtle difference when a master walks without feeling a separate body-mind here and the corridor there. There are many, many such possibilities to see things related to this teaching of being one without having to sit in a classroom or sitting in meditation with some kind of practice to learn about these things. And that is what this Zen master meant by saying, "Well, you haven't found out what I'm teaching yet." Verse number 8. The company of sages converts emptiness into fullness, death into immortality, and adversity into prosperity. Again, here is not only with the presence of sages that this happens. After all, you, the viewer, are the ultimate light, and it is in the presence of that light that you are, that those three things can happen, meaning converting emptiness into fullness, death into immortality, and adversity into prosperity. So let's go into these three items one by one. Emptiness into fullness. Yes, when you are constantly busy with your body-mind, thinking, feeling, it's like then you are playing the movie on a screen without noticing the screen. When you turn your gaze inwards and find that shining light that you already are, the screen becomes visible, and that is what is meant. Emptiness becomes fullness. Secondly, turning death into immortality. Here again, when you take yourself as this body, then it is certain that there will be a day that you're going to pass away. Death will come. But what if you take yourself as that which is aware of this body? The body passes away, but that which is aware of this body may be different. It may be that it is always now, and again now. It is always now. And what is meant by immortality? Instead of taking yourself as this little body that will die one day, you may take yourself as this aware space that is now and again now. Thirdly, turning adversity into prosperity. Here again, when living from this limited body-mind's perspective, we use tons of energy to defend this ego fortress. And we are always tired and stressed, and things never go the way we wanted, because this ego mind always wants to have things differently. However, when you take yourself as the aware space that you already are, or the screen on which this movie plays, then whatever happens, it happens. You flow more with the flow of the river. And in that way, adversity turns into prosperity. Not necessarily in the number of euros or dollars that you would have in your bank account, but in the amount of happiness that you feel, because you're no longer struggling against the current and you accept what is, therefore allowing this light to shine. So, for a few moments, reflect a bit on being this light of awareness, rather than taking yourself for a body or for a series of thoughts and ego concepts. Verse number 9. If sages were concerned solely with their own happiness, with whom could those tormented by the sorrows of samsara seek refuge? Peace and happiness are universal. And when being aware of this universal light, awareness that we are, then sharing that with others is the most rewarding action of all. Why keeping that to oneself? It's in our nature, in a way, then, to give, to share. And let's not have a misunderstanding here. Sages, as they are being called here, don't share this teaching from a desire point of view. It's not something they want to do because it will make them happy, and it's not a desire. One of my Advaita teachers, Francis Lucille, once compared this as a bird singing in the tree. The bird is there and it sings happily without noticing whether there are other birds around it or people around it to listen to its song. It just sings its song. And in the same way, this teaching can be shared without necessarily implying that there is a desire to share this with others. So here for a moment, again reflect on being this universal light that you are, this aware space that you are, and see that sharing it comes quite naturally. Last, verse number 10. That which is imparted, O good soul, to a worthy disciple who has become dispassionate, is the real wisdom. It is the real purport of the sacred texts and is also the comprehensive wisdom. Here one may also look at what is meant by imparting. Imparting is a word that may sound dualistically. This thing here, impart this teaching to you, the viewer. But what is shared here, there's no division between this thing and you over there. It is more like a flame being transmitted to a flame. It may look as if two flames are there, but in fact it is just one flame from the flame's point of view. And that is the flame that is being imparted in oneness. So, for another moment of silence, feel your presence of awareness as being like a flame, and ponder about whether it is separate from other people's presence. Yes, your body stops where your skin is. There is inside and outside. There is duality. But that which is aware of this body, aware of the sound of this voice, that awareness does not share this boundary. It doesn't stop anywhere, and like the flame, it just shares this light with others. This concludes today's session. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back with more verses the next time. Have a great day.